Hey guys, Marc Sadowski here with Tiny Shutter. I am here in the Franconia Notch area of the White Mountains on the Kinsman Trail, and I would like to show you my top 5 favorite iPhone apps for long exposure photography. There are a lot out there that are really good, and unlike other top 5s where it's just, you know, we're going from the least to the worst, from the worst to the best, I wanted to show you something that's more in line of they're all kind of number one because they all have a great purpose. And I want to show you which ones that I use. This means that not all of them, this means all of them have the potential to be number one because in my mind, you can have them all. You can benefit from every one of these apps' strengths and utilize it to your own photography. So let's go ahead and check out the list, and let's photograph some waterfalls too. So the first one is probably the easiest one, and it's going to be on everyone's iPhone, and that's the live photography view on your iPhone. When you have live mode turned on, you have the choice to do loops, you have the choice to do all these effects. One of them is long exposures. Now, it's awesome because with one quick snapshot, you're able to take a long exposure photo, a simulated one. They're all simulated. Problem is that the detail in the blur is not going to be ideal. If you have leaves under the water in the water flow, the leaves are going to get blurred. They're not going to be sharp like it would be with the other apps. So it's a great way to just play with it, test it out to see if you enjoy doing it on your iPhone, or if you're one that likes to explore and do DSLR photography later on, it's a great way to scout ahead without carrying all big gear and just test out stuff, get your GPS location on your iPhone, things like that. So that's coming in at number 5. It's kind of an honorable mention. It's not my favorite, but it works in a pinch. Number 4 is the Spectre app, and that's by the people who make the Halide camera app. Now, just because it's number 4 doesn't mean it doesn't, you know, it's any less. It's a great app, and if you're a fan of the Halide camera app, like I am, then you're going to be familiar with its design, the look and feel. It's a great app. In fact, even though it's number 4, it's number 1 in being able to use it as a scouting app, because this is the only great iPhone app that allows you to do long exposure handheld. It has its own algorithm that allows you to just hold it steady, and it's going to stabilize the image for you. In fact, I did a video on it earlier this year. So it's number 4 on my list, but it is absolutely my top pick for going to do photography without a tripod. Number 3 is the Moment app. The Moment photography app just recently had its addition to do long exposure photography, the slow shutter simulation. And it's a great app. I love it. Like Halide, they did a tremendous job incorporating their slow shutter technology into their into the Moment app. And even though it's number 3 on my list, it is number 1 in doing light trails, and in particular doing firework photography. Because one of the cool things is that once you take the photo, you can snap the next photo, the next photo, the next photo, and I found that the light trails that it produced were really awesome. So it does great long exposure photography, and it is my number one pick for doing light trails. Number two, now this is where it gets tricky, because my number two and my number one are really, really close to me and really, really near and dear to me. But number two is Camera Plus 2. Camera Plus 2 I love because it's the makers of a Camera Plus 1. This is the all-purpose camera app. You're able to do long exposure, you're able to do burst, you're able to do macro. You could do all your editing in the app. The people who make Camera Plus are just phenomenal. They do a great job. And the beauty about Camera Plus 2 is that you're able to basically treat it as though it were a DSLR, and that once you select the slow shutter option, you're able to adjust the seconds, you're able to adjust your exposure in a manner that is the closest to a DSLR as possible, I think. And it does a great job. If you're having a hard time with a particular exposure, you try to get your brightness just perfect, Camera Plus 2 is a great app to use, and it is number 2 on my list. So number 1, it is the first slow shutter app that I have ever used, ever since way back when. It is Slow Shutter Cam. They are my favorite because it was my first. They do slow shutter great. It is the thing that they specialize in, the thing that they do awesome. The blur effect that you do is just perfect, and they're unique in that you can keep doing your blur over and over again. So when you photograph, you're left at that crossroads where you want to save it, or do you want to keep doing your exposure? And you can keep going and going and going, and they are just a powerhouse in doing the long exposure effect. Their blur in the water is awesome. Your detail in the water is preserved, where the water is in motion, but any details under the water is firmly crisp and clear. It is my number 1. And again, these are my personal picks. Yours might be different, and if it is, I'd like to hear it in the comments below. So anyway, I hope that list was helpful for you. You'll find more in the description below about each app, their pricing on iTunes, and so forth. And I'd love to hear more about what you make. If you want to share some of your photos, go ahead, put them on Instagram, #TinyShutter, give me your name, say that we have permission to use it for the video show, and I would love to feature your photos. So, happy trails.
before we end, there's one more thing. So I'm making a quick stop here at the Canterbury rest area. I'm on my way home, and even this rest area is really nice. Check out the view behind me here. Nice little, there we go, big boulder there. So I found this little guy here. It is a list of all the covered bridges and, more importantly, the waterfalls in the White Mountains area. It's a nice little checklist for visiting, but this is my bucket list for iPhone photography. I want to photograph all of these locations with my iPhone, and we'll do a video on that. So stay tuned. It's a long list.